Trapped by the belief that I'm not good enough, bound by the limitations and the lies that consumed my world, this was me. It wasn't until I took the biggest leap in my life to know and trust the power within. And it was at that moment I made a choice. My past will not define me anymore. Hello, I am Teri, and I know I am not alone in this. Over the years, I have found that the number one mistake that we make is that we get in the way of our own success story. Yes, I said it. On this show, together we'll tackle limiting beliefs, self-sabotage, getting stuck, fear, doubt, overwhelm, and the imposter syndrome. Join us on this journey designed to transport you beyond your limitations to a world where anything is possible. This is Talking with Teri. Hello, and welcome back to Talking with Teri, where we have powerful conversations to transform your life and your business. And we are in for a little treat here. We have Daniel Mangena.
True.
He is a successful entrepreneur, best-selling author, podcast host of Do It with Dan and Beyond Success. He's been featured in CNN, CBS, Fox, the Jack Canfield Show, and in Forbes and the Entrepreneur magazine. So I can't wait to connect with you and just hear like the juicy yumminess that has brought you here to be with me, right?
Yeah, we're gonna
So
bring some magic,
hello,
right?
how are you and welcome.
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. It's just absolutely awesome to be here and to see how we can serve the audience today and bring a bit more magic into their lives.
I love it. I love it. So tell me a little bit about your background story and how you got to be here to where you're at today.
Sure. So I live now in Cabo in Mexico. That's where I've been for the last 3.5 years. I left the UK in 2018 to go off and share my work. But that wasn't something that I wanted to do at first. I had very much a Jonah in the whale situation. And when I first left the UK in summer of 2018, I wasn't planning to leave and start a business. I actually closed down a business that I built from the ground up, from nothing up to about £100,000 per month of revenue. It was doing really well.
Yeah.
And I sort of walked away from that to come and do what I do now. And the reason why was because the universe, God, source, divine, whatever word you want to use, beat me over the head multiple times.
Yes.
I refuse to listen. So I'm going to rewind. I love to describe my life as like a trilogy. So we've got going up to about the age of 21. I would say no, about the age of 22, leading up to when I lost everything the second time. I actually made and lost £2 multi-million-pound fortunes by the age of 23. Then there was the whole journey of, after that second loss, coming back from suicidal ideation into success, and then the awareness that everything that had come through was actually what led to the magic. You know, so often people ask, you know, is there anything you would change? Is there something you'd do differently? And I can say emphatically, not as a cliche, that no, I wouldn't change anything, because literally the joy that I get to experience in my life every day now, the way that I get to see people's lives transformed, came from the road that I walked. And if I changed anything, that might not happen. So we're in the third part of the trilogy now. Like I said, I'm here in Cabo. I have a 14-month-old son called Ethan. I've got a 6-year-old stepdaughter called Ariana. My wife, Olga's from Russia. We've been together building this family for a few years now. And I literally get to spend every day supporting people and activating more abundance in their lives.
I love it. I love it. This is fantastic. So what has been, I'm guessing, and I'm, that place of going to hitting rock bottom. I mean, being suicidal probably, I'm guessing, was probably one of many of your barriers and challenges that you've had to overcome. And going from a place of that depth of darkness, like how did you get, how did you move past that?
So this is the crazy thing. I woke up 2015, I woke up and I realized I hadn't felt the dark dog of suicidal, depressive thought for a very long time. I couldn't remember the last time that had happened. But the reason why that's so potent, Teri, is because I didn't move out of suicidal ideation because I suddenly was like, oh, I'm not going to do this anymore. There's been an intervention and I want to choose life. Yeah. What actually happened was I didn't make an attempt because I felt like such a loser at the time. I thought I'd fail. And I didn't want to be the douchebag that couldn't even pull off his suicide correctly. That's exactly how I felt.
Wow.
You got to remember that, coming from the UK, there's no, you're not going to be able to get a gun. right? And I thank God that because if I did have access to a gun, I know if I put the muzzle of that here, it's going to be over.
Mm.
But I didn't have anything that had that level of certainty. And so what actually happened, and this is the crazy thing, and the more that I look back at it, the crazier it is to me, that I said, okay, if I try and swallow pills, I might end up in a hospital with people looking at me, feeling sorry for me. If I do hang myself and nobody finds me before the deed is done, someone's going to have to cut me down, and I don't want to put that on anyone. I've seen far too many cut mark wrists to have scars to represent me being a loser if I get that wrong. So what I need to do is I need to not be a loser so that when I do make my suicide attempt, it's going to work. And I actually went off.
Wow.
I went off to
Wow.
work out
Oh my
what had gone
gosh.
wrong with my manifesting and my conscious creation and all this stuff that I thought I knew, but now I looked at and realized that I didn't actually know how to do, despite the fact that I'd created so much success earlier on in my life. And I need to get that sorted so that I can get this suicide done. And so the next several years were spent on that journey.
Okay,
so waking up
listeners,
then
are
in
you listening
2015,
to this? Like, wow, like this will be the first time that, and I used to be a therapist for 25 years. Okay.
Mhm.
So I've seen the worst of the worst. I've seen
Mhm.
suicide ideation. I've seen
Mhm.
suicides. I've seen, I've seen this,
Mhm.
but never have I ever heard of someone that was so afraid that they couldn't get it right, that they were going to go figure out the right way to do it, which was the motivation that kept you in the place that you are today. Wow.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
wow.
So now you get why that mental thought in 2015 was so potent, because and this is one of the things I speak about in my TED talk, which maybe by the time this is out, it will finally be up. We've had some challenges getting that posted.
Yeah.
But you got to remember that I went off on this mission. So this all happened around the age of 22, 23. I was diagnosed with Asperger's at 27. So I didn't know what it was that had my brain wired the way that it was for me to look at this situation the way that I did. So this is one of the reasons why, again, I'm so grateful for being on the autistic spectrum, because the way that my brain functions meant that I don't have the wiring to make impulsive decisions. Everything moves through this decision-making process. Yeah. And that's what led me to this. And so I went off and I was reading books for hours a day, listening to tapes. I wasn't having pointless conversations because I had a mission. I need to work out what's wrong. So I'm spending hours and hours and hours a day. I learned to transliterate Arabic and Hebrew so that I could read ancient texts. I was going into ancient mystics. I was reading mindset books. I was learning about neurology, because I had to understand what was going to make this a success. But because I was so absorbed in it, my brain actually ended up changing without me being consciously aware of it. And then I woke up and realized, oh, wow, I'm not that person anymore.
Wow. I mean, you changed your default mode, like accidentally on purpose.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Wow. Well, and this is a testament to the power of this work. When we start focusing on and we start changing the neural pathways, because that is what ultimately you did without really having that direction or knowingness at the time of what you were doing, really changed your defaults. Wow.
It did. And this is, again, when people come with the stories and the excuses, and I don't suicide shame them or whatever, but the fact of the matter is that I know how committed I was to that goal. I know how committed I was to that goal. But when your environment is conducive to a particular outcome, it doesn't matter what you think you want. The unconscious will respond to that environment. And the unconscious, which is moving 10,000 to 10 million times the speed of the conscious mind, will create new outcomes for you. You've got this powerful ally that's available to you if you just take the time to learn how to communicate that new outcome that you consciously desire with it.
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness. We could have this go in depth here in the conversation here. So yummy. And I think that, in all the years that I've been working with, and especially in the last 15 years here working with women entrepreneurs, I think I truly believe that mindset is our biggest challenge that we have to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
We can teach the tools, we can teach the skills, we can, all of that, it can be taught. And so
Mm-hmm.
can mindset work can be taught, but
Mm-hmm.
it's something that impacts every single every single thing that we put out there, from our
Mm-hmm.
marketing, our branding, who we are on the stage, who we show up to be, the relationships, the connections, the collaborations, our targets, our goals, like everything is connected to the vibrational alignment or disalignment, what we're
Mm-hmm.
putting out there, right? So what have you seen in the work that you've done,
Mm-hmm.
that has helped support? Doesn't matter where you're at on the journey, doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
where you're, what level, because
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe that no matter what level we're at right now, we're not going to stay at that level very long
Mm-hmm.
before we go to the next level and the next level and the next level. So, what would you feel like is a tool, a tip, a nugget that has really helped support the work that you've done with yourself, but also with your clients?
I'm going to give this one, and people might see it as cliche, but I need them to stop and really, really listen to it. And I'm going to give the context for it. I made my first million when I was 19 years old. It's a dangerous time to make a lot of money, not because I was out partying and doing drugs. I didn't even drink alcohol, but because I think it was one of the old school, maybe Seneca, one of the old school philosophers that says, beware of success that is not earned or not properly earned or something like that. And I don't remember the exact quote, but you'll get the context.
Yeah.
I hadn't been tested by life. And because I hadn't been tested by life, I didn't recognize what was outside of my realm of capacity to deal with. And so I didn't think anything existed outside of my realm of capacity to deal with. I felt invincible. The reason why I lost everything the first time is because I didn't have the right licensing and stuff for my business. And it was a very easy thing that could have stopped that whole situation. And I wouldn't have had to go through the nonsense of losing everything and all of the legal trouble and everything that came off the back of that.
Yeah.
But since then, I've learned that, number one, the most powerful thing to do in any conversation, this is the thing for the listeners, is to go into that conversation assuming that you know nothing and that there is something, no matter how small, that the person that you're in conversation can give you, regardless if it's a child, regardless if it's a crazy homeless person on the street. There is always a way that conversation, that connection, that communication can be the avenue for the divine, for God, for source, for the universe to communicate to you something that can change your life. Never underestimate the tool that God can use to create a shift for you.
I love this. I love this because, again, I think sometimes we can go into the conversations with an agenda or, getting our own emotions, or, whatever story we were telling ourselves about that conversation, about how that's going to look or go. Right. I remember just recently, and I have not yet had the conversation, but I remember going into this conversation. It was supposed to happen on Monday. And I was like, I was really frustrated. I'm like, ugh. And I told myself, I can't even have this conversation right now because I am frustrated with what's happening. And I'm going to go into this conversation being frustrated. So I'm just going to pause until I have clarity. And literally on Wednesday of this week, there was just like I received some downloads around the context of this conversation. And so now I'm like, oh my goodness, now going in with that context, that conversation I know is going to be a really powerful conversation now because I took some time, and of course it's not the exact same thing, but I know going into this conversation that I'm going to have a different perception. I'm going to have a different energy about it. I'm going to have a different, I know that it's going to be a powerful conversation now, in a way in which it's going to really contribute to me and my business and to all involved. Right.
I love that. And the thing is, it's judgments. And a lot of this, again, is happening at the unconscious level.
Yes.
But what I'm inviting people to do is to use these instances as a time to stop, take a couple of breaths and just say, am I conscious in this moment right now? Am I available to what might be coming through? What am I contributing to it? Not from a place of I know everything, but because I want to collaboratively add and pour into this person that I'm speaking to. Again, regardless of who it is. My son's 14 months now. you've had a peanut
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
So you know what the journey is. But there's
Yeah.
so much that even just the way that he's learning to coordinate and connect with the world, that I'm getting to learn, that's pouring into me, that allows me to pour into others too. It's not just a baby running around. This is a human learning to be a human, learning about myself. I'm learned compassion, all these crazy things just from observing a little kid running around, picking his nose, right? It's crazy.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Life is beautiful. Life is, you know, when we can take that moment and step back and really be in the present moment, right? Being in the present moment of seeing all these little miracles that are running around. I think sometimes we take that for granted, you know, like how blessed we really are in this moment of all the things that we have, and just, again, you know, playing in a place of gratitude and having gratitude for what we currently have. And also knowing that we have this desire to even create more. And it's absolutely to be planted in gratitude and be moving and desiring more in our lives, you know?
Agreed.
It's really powerful.
Agreed.
I love this. Okay. So, you know, before we wrap up, what's another tip that you can share with our listeners today?
This one is going to sound crazy after everything we've spoken about today, but don't take life too seriously. None of us are getting out of it alive. No, honestly, I mean,
that's great. I love it.
My whole dance with the shadow was because I became so obsessed with what I thought other people were going to think, and how much of my identity was tied in other people, and taking that so seriously that it nearly cost me my life. And many of us aren't going through that challenge. Maybe some are. And if you are, please do reach out and get help from someone who can support you, because people care more than you think.
Wow.
Is that we lose touch with the importance of our own opinion. We lose touch with the importance of what we care about. We lose touch with the importance of how we value ourselves, and can get so serious about what the world thinks and what society thinks. And we can get lost in that and forget that, number one, tomorrow isn't promised. And number two, again, none of us are getting out of this alive anyway. So don't take it so seriously.
Yeah, I love that. It's a great message. I belong to this group here in Colorado called the Danes, and she's taken a new perspective on networking, and so she brings in comedians, right? And she instills like that humor into the things, because you're right. Like, you know, I think sometimes we get into a place of serious too often, especially as entrepreneurs. And for me, when I get into serious mode, like, I know that my playfulness is not activated as high, right? And there are times when we need to be in serious modes. Like if I'm meeting with my attorney and we're talking about some really, you know, pertinent information, even though I'm going to sprinkle in some humor there whenever I can, right? You know, there's going to be more times when there's going to be times when we have to be in that place of seriousness. But we can also sprinkle in that playfulness. Like I tell people all the time, I lead with humor, because I find that when I can get people laughing, there's just an energy exchange that happens, and it just is a beautiful thing. I mean, there's something beautiful about shared laughter. You know, and you know, and this is how I've done with parenting, and I have actually enjoyed parenting, because I've led with humor, and you know, I'll be looking at the situation, and I'll look at my daughter, and sometimes it's just a look, and it'll be like a funny look, and we will both start laughing, because it's like, we know we don't need to go into a lecture mode. We know what was done, and it's, you know, now we've learned our lesson and we're moving on. But, you know, I think this is so important, and because I think sometimes when we go into serious mode, we get into stress mode. Serious mode and stress mode kind of are like distant cousins. And so,
not so distant sometimes.
and so, right, like, you know, so we can, you know, just keeping a playful spirit about what we're doing and engaging in, because, you know, joy and happiness and laughter and fun is just such a higher vibration than, you know, being in that serious, you know, place. Love it. I love it. What's great nuggets, great values, great reminders, you know, especially when, you know, we've been doing this for a long time and we kind of lost like maybe the meaning of what we're here to do, and tapping back into the joy that we bring to ourselves, because I truly believe the more that we do on ourselves, the more joy we can create, the more happiness we can create. That becomes our ripple effect. That becomes our legacy in helping others to do the same. Right.
Agreed.
I love it.
Well said.
Well, Dan, this has been absolutely delightful. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Where can people connect with you?
Well, what we've actually done is we've created a resource page, especially for your listeners. So they'll go to dreamwithdan.com/Teri, Teri, dreamwithdan.com/Teri. What I've done on there is I've gone ahead and popped a visualization I've got called Enter the Heart, which really helps to get you grounded and in the present moment so that you can be more resilient in your life. We've put a couple of resources about a teaching I've got called Money DNA. I've also put an abundance meditation on there that's really, really powerful. Just some other little tidbits, things that they can really use to turn the dial, move the needle, and bring more magic into their life today.
I love this. Well, Dan, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. And thank you for continuing to be just a huge contribution to this planet. I think this is time that we all get to waken up together and, help move, collective consciousness in a higher vibration and a higher awareness. And, I'm just so grateful for the work that you're doing. So thank you
so much. Take care.
I am so grateful that you joined me for this episode. If you've enjoyed this, then there's just one thing that I would like you to do. Click to subscribe and leave me a rating and review. As my way to thank you, let's connect for a free consultation. Just reach out to me at talkingwithteri, that's TERI.com, to book your time.